लिमिट नहीं है, मैं कर रहा हूँ
But now I can understand that how humiliating it must be for those people. Perhaps they were adapted to that environment. They did not protest against it. And it was only Gandhiji who called them Harijan, children of God. And today, Modi ji also called handicap as Divyang. So what I mean to say, that when we relate these terms with God, it gives some different effect, impact. And we makes awareness among us. And literature is the best tool to teach, to aware, to sensitize. Marginalized literature is the literature which keeps some of the section from their devoid from their fundamental rights, like to participate in social, cultural, economical, political spheres of their lives, and keep them aloof, neglected, segregated from all those sophisticated and elite class. Marginalization gets its roots in the sphere of Dalit literature. Dalit means those are in ground down. There are many writers who came forward, like Mulk Raj Anand, Mahashweta Devi, Mahesh Dattani, Conrad, and so many others. Mulk Raj Anand has written and the writing itself conveys that is the way.
अरे ये वाला म्यूट तो ना मुझे दे क्या कर रहा
It's a story of a sweeper's son, Bakha, who wanted to get education and was always fascinated by the British etiquette and that their children going to school, but he could never get education. Not only this, but they were deprived from their fundamental rights. They could not face the mercy of the priest, that if somebody comes and they have the pity on them, they can get 1 or 2 buckets of water. Bakha's sister was called by the priest to the temple for cleaning. And she goes there, the priest tries to molest her. Just see the hypocrisy of the priest. On one hand, they will not touch her, and on the other, he is trying to molest her. And very shockingly, when she tries to protest or she tries to save herself, she cries out. And the priest shouts louder than her and says that polluted, polluted, everything is polluted. She was trying to climb the stairs to the top. And her voice was suppressed. There was no one to hear her. And she could not go against the priest. She could not do anything against the priest. We all know that our society is divided in 4 sections: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And this division was made according to their works. Brahmin were the educated, and who were warriors and fighters were called Kshatriya. Who were trading and business, they were Vaishya, and those who were doing the cleanliness work, they were Shudra. What does it mean? That if a Brahmin son is not good enough in studies or is a good warrior, he must be called Shudra. And in the same way, if Shudra's son is good enough in his studies, he must be called Brahmin. But no, it could not happen. Brahmins who were so-called educated, they made a scheme. They could not tolerate that their son can be called Shudra. So they stopped shoes to go to school or to get education and come on the platform of equality. Therefore, the shoes remain shoes and Brahmin remain Brahmin. From here, the discrimination started. Not only this caste discrimination, but Toni Morrison raised the issue of the color discrimination. In his very famous novel, Beloved, he has portrayed that how the blacks were dominated and crushed by the whites. They were made slave and they were exploited. They were treated like animals. Even in the Conrad's novel, The Heart of Darkness, he is describing about the life of the natives. That Britishers, in the name of to give them education and to civilize them, they were exploiting them. And there was no improvement in the condition or the situation of the natives. They were exploiting them to the extent that they were bringing ivory from the jungles that was very costly and was earning money, and that was nothing. They could not give, the natives could not give any harm to the Britishers. Even the women are marginalized. It may be the widowers or the divorcees, or they were always secondary sex. They were not
सही है
they were not getting the education also. Many of the writers came forward.
ऊपर हैं आ रहे हैं बात कर रहे हैं किसी
Manju Kapoor, R.K. Narayan, and they tried to portray the very pitiable and pathetic picture of the women. But I think, this is my personal feeling, that as much as we are talking about the exploitation of the women, so much so they will be exploited. The need is not to portray their pitiable condition. I am thankful or I appreciate the novels of Manju Kapoor. Her lady characters, her women characters are very bold. They protest. They establish their own identity and came out of those struggles and established their identity. This should be the theme of the writers, not to portray only the pitiable condition, but to tell how to come out of it. But anyhow, after a long struggle, the condition of the women is improving. It may be very handful of the women. But still, there is one section that is totally neglected, humiliated, insulted, I can say. And that is eunuch, Hinjra, Kinnar, lesbian, transgender, third gender. These are the people that, though now the work has been started, many of the people are writing on them, like Living Ismail Vidya. She gives her own autobiography. And she says that she was Vidya and was born as a man, as a boy in the family. And he was born after the two daughters and one dead son. So naturally, as happens that everybody was very happy and celebration was doing in the house, and the father was very, very happy, and he was trying to fulfill all the desires of the son. But Vidya was different. From the very beginning, she wanted to dress herself. The boy wanted to dress herself like the girls, and he used to wear the dresses of his sister in the absence of the father. He was good in his studies also, always got first rank. So father was more elated. But gradually he felt that his activities, he wanted to do the activities like the girls. So he was ridiculed at the college. And in the school, his rank started coming down. And he decided then firmly that no, I cannot live this life. I will go for my surgery for the transgender. He wanted to change his sex. And for that, he left the house. and went in the search of a job, but he could not get the job as a Hijra. Then he opened a shop, but no customer turned up to buy the goods from his shop, from the shop of a Hijra. And then forced he had to come to the street and on the trains for begging. This is how this section is totally marginalized. So there are other examples also, like Truth About Me or Gift of Goddess Lakshmi. They also have almost the same story. Not only in English, but in Hindi also. There are so many works have been done on Hijras, on eunuchs. A very famous writer, Mahendra Bhishma, he has written in Main Payal that a girl is born in a family as a fifth girl child, and it was Hijra. Father was very angry, and he used to beat the child. He used to throw her and even wanted to kill her. The innocent Jugni could not understand why this behavior I am getting. And finally, she was so depressed that she had to leave the house. And for you can say, she doesn't know that where she is going and what she will do, and had to live the same life of the Hijras. In Chitra Mudgal, in post box number 203, Nala Supara. Nala Supara is a place in Mumbai. There a boy, Vinod, is born, and he was born as Hijra. And he was taken away by the group of Hijras at the age of 14. Though he wanted to live a normal life. But actually, what happens, from where the problem comes? You know, when we apply in the school and we fill an application form, there are only 2 columns for the gender, male or female. There is no column for the third gender. This is the one thing. Secondly, if this type of the child is sent to a male school, and his activities are always like feminine, so he becomes the subject of a ridicule. Everybody laughs at him, and he feels humiliated. If he is sent to a girls' school, then he is teased by the girls as his best daughter. These are the problems they had to face, and again they have to live a secluded or the neglected life. And this happens with Vinod also, and finally he is murdered by a politician. I have also heard a Hijra talking about himself, and that Hijra belongs to a good educated family. And he said that when he was quite young, he always wanted to live like a girl, like the girls. He was imitating the girls. He was doing all the activities, makeup, dresses like feminine. Whenever he gets up in the morning, he used to color his lips. And everybody was very happy. They were enjoying actually. They thought that he is doing mimicry or imitating the girls. But he said, no, I knew only that it was not mimicry. These were my inner feelings, that I wanted to live a life of a girl. And if a male member come to my family, I was feeling shy. I did not enjoy the company of the girls. So, and further he said that I was lucky enough that my parents did not bother me. They did not tease, torture me. They allowed me to stay in the house. So there he was comfortable. But the society did not accept him. And he himself felt uncomfortable in the house. And he went out in the search of the persons of his own style, of same as he was. And finally, he joined the group of Hijras. Mahesh Dattani, in his drama 7 Steps Around the Fire, he has also focused on the lives of the Hinjras. Mahesh Dattani, one of the best and most serious dramatists, is the first to win Sahitya Akademi Award. His dramas emerged as fresh arrivals in the domain of drama in the last 20th century. He is estimated on two counts. One is concerned with the fair sex, and the other his visit to virgin landscape, that is of homosexual, eunuchs, etc. Mahesh Dattani concentrates on the theme of homosexual communal tension, eunuchs. Dattani tried to articulate the voices of oppressed section of the society whose identity is shrouded under the cover of myths and prejudices. They have been dragged in darkness, doomed in perpetual silence, bearing the burden of the hegemony of elite class. Dattani's plays are eye-openers to that class who claim to have sophisticated or developed society, though this section lies beneath. His 7 steps around the fire. As I told you that he has described about Hinjras. The word Hinjra comes from the Urdu word Hinjar. That means to walk away from the community. It's not a new phenomenon. The reference comes even in Manu Smriti. And over great epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, we are introduced with Hinjras. It's a very famous legend in Ramayana that when Ramchandji was going for exile in the forest, it was like a shock to all the Ayodhya Vasis. Many of the men and women followed him. For some time, Ramchandji did not say anything, but later on he felt that no, it is not proper. How they will live with me in the forest? The life of the forest is not so easy. It's very difficult, full of thorns. So very humbly, he addressed to all the men and women, and he said that, dear, my dear men and women, I request you to go back. It is very difficult to live the life of the jungles. So most of the men and women went back, but some of the men sacrificed their sexual organs and declared that we are neither men nor women and we will accompany you. Ramchandji was very surprised and he was fascinated also that, oh, the love, the devotion of these people. So he blessed them. Even in Mahabharata, everybody is familiar with the name of Shikhandi. It was Shikhandi only that Grandsire Bhishma had to put down his bow and arrow, and the face of the Mahabharata was changed. What I mean to say, that at that time, they were not marginalized. Even the kings, they used to invite them whenever they were free or were in a happy mood to enjoy. So they invited them and they were making dances and singings. They were respected. But with the Britishers' rule, the Britishers did not like them, like that class. And from that time, the deterioration came. And now, many of the writers have come forward. Mahesh Dattani has done a beautiful job. When we read the title, 7 Steps Around the Fire, we are familiar with Agni ke Char Fere. This happens in every family, in everybody's life. So when we read the title, it becomes obvious that there must be something strange, something very particular, something very, very unpredictable. And when we read it, we find that it is a wedding of Hinjra. That is unexpected. That Hinjra is married. So it's a drama in which we see a group of Hinjras. Champa, Anarkali, and Kamla. Champa is the head of Hinjras. And Kamla is very beautiful. She is so beautiful that most of the customers come for Kamla only. To the extent that the minister, Mr. Sharma's son Subramaniam, he also comes and falls in love with Kamla. He could not stop himself and he starts coming every day to Kamla and finally decides to marry her. When the marriage was solemnized, even the priest could not recognize that she is Hinjra. She is so beautiful. But as we can see, that minister cannot accept it. It was his stake of his fame. So he got Kamla killed, murdered. And the blame was put on Anarkali. Why on Anarkali? Because Champa was quite old. And after the retirement of Champa, it was blamed that Anarkali wanted to become the head of the Hinjras, and Kamla was beautiful, so she had this notion in her mind that maybe that Kamla will become the head, therefore she murdered Kamla. And with this blame, Anarkali was imprisoned. She was put into the jail. She had no voice. Now on the other hand, Uma Rao, she is a lecturer in Bangalore University. And she is working on Hinjras. So when she comes to know about it, she becomes very interested and thought that this will be a good story for my paper. She is the daughter of Vice Chancellor. And Uma Rao is the daughter-in-law of Police Commissioner. And she is wife of Police Superintendent. So she asked her husband that I want to meet Anarkali. Husband was very shocked. But then he realized that if she wants to work for her thesis, then I will make some arrangement for her meeting with Anarkali. But before it, just see the mentality or mindset of the people about these Hinjras. He says to his wife, Uma Rao, that you should be very careful because these persons are liars. They cannot tell you the truth. And they always fight like dogs. So this is the general impression of these Hinjras on everyone. And then he appoints a constable Manuswami for Uma Rao to meet with Anarkali. Manuswami was also very shocked at how it is possible that the madam will meet a Hinjra. So he says, madam, you don't meet with her. There are so many cases. You can deal with them. But because he is not so educated, he could not realize that why for Uma Rao wants to meet Kamla, that she is doing her thesis on Hinjras. Anyhow, when she is ready to meet with Anarkali, Anarkali is not ready. She refuses. She said that, no, I don't want to meet with any reporter. Then Uma Rao convinces her. She says, I am not a reporter. I just want to meet with you. I am a daughter of Vice Chancellor. I am daughter-in-law of Police Commissioner. And I am working my thesis on Hinjras, on eunuchs. So Anarkali said, so what? What could I do? Acha, okay, you want that when you finish your work, I should come and dance and sing. This is what you want? She said, no, I have told you many things about me. Now you tell me about yourself. Then Anarkali immediately said that I did not kill Kamla. Why? But you were fighting with Kamla. So what? Kamla was my sister. Don't you fight with your sister? Umarao said that I don't have any sister. So, oh, poor. You don't have any sister. If you had been a Hinjra, I would have made you my sister. मैं कहा अगर तुम हिंजरा होती तो मैं तुम्हें अपनी सिस्टर बना लेती. Umarao said that no, you can take me as your sister. And then she asked that why did you kill Kamla? She said, I tell you that I did not kill Kamla. Kamla was my sister. And I don't want to tell you the name of those persons because nobody can tolerate it. I will be killed. And then very politely she said that you please bail me out. If you think I am your sister, then you bail me out. Umarao said that it is not in my hands. I can't do it. How? You tell me the way. She said, oh, just throw the money on their face and they will release me. Umarao said that no, I don't have any money. She said, you take it from your father and give it to Champa. Then she asked, who is Champa? And Anarkali then tells the address of Champa and tells that she is the head. Now Umarao wants to meet with Champa. But again, Constable Manuswamy doesn't support her to go to Champa. But she was so eager. She was so excited to know all the details of this story that she decides to go of her own. She takes a taxi and goes there. When she reaches there, the same thing happens again. Champa doesn't want to meet Umarao. She thinks that she is a journalist and refuses to meet. Again, she had to tell that no, I am not journalist. I am sent by Anarkali. So she was very surprised that how did you meet with Anarkali? And she permits her to come in. Then she asks her that who killed Kamla. And Champa says that Anarkali has not killed Champa. Both were like sisters. And for me, both were like daughters. She has not killed Champa, and we don't know actually who has killed her. And Umarao does not believe on the words of Champa, and she said that you are hiding something from me. You please tell me. When this conversation was going on, another person, Salim, he was a bodyguard of Mr. Sharma, minister. He comes and says that I want to see the belongings of Kamla. I want to take them. Champa says no. Her money and all the jewelry belongs to me. You cannot touch it. He said, no, I don't want money. I don't want to take it. I don't want money. I don't want jewelry. I just want to see. I want a photograph. Champa was very clever. She shows her everything, but she hides that photograph from him. She doesn't want to hand over that photograph to Salim. And then she said, don't you see that we have guests in our house? She is daughter-in-law of police commissioner. Salim was very scared and he goes away from there. After his departure, Umarao asked Champa, who is that fellow? Why is he? What does he want? How he is concerned with that one particular photograph? Champa says that he wants a photograph that I cannot give her. Even I don't have that photograph. Again, Umarao doesn't believe on his words. And then she asked that Subbu, means Subramaniam, who was going to marry with Kamla, would you go in his marriage because he is getting married again to some other girl? And Umarao said, of course I will go there. And it was decided that they will meet there only. Umarao comes back. When her husband asks what happened, she says, you were very right. These people are big liars. They don't tell anything. And then Umarao was not keeping silent. She bought some presents for Subbu and went in the marriage of Subramaniam. When she reaches there and all the ceremonies were over, even that 7 steps around the fire, 7 फेरी भी जब हो गए, Then the group of the Hinjas came there, and Anarkali was among them. They started dancing. When Mr. Sharma, the minister, saw them, he started shouting. Who are they? Why they have come? What are they doing? Who permitted them to let in? Throw them out. Call my guards. And he did not like them to come in the house. Then Umarao goes and says to Mr. Sharma, what is harm in it? They are harmless people. They will just sing and bless the couple. They will take some money and go back. Then Mr. Sharma thought that Umarao is in the favor of these people. She doesn't have any objection. Then he also permitted those people to come and dance. When they come, and the couple was also brought there, then Anarkali and all the Hinjras was dancing. That and the dance progressed. Then Anarkali very cleverly reaches by and by to Subramaniam and hands over that photograph to Subramaniam, to Subbu. When Subbu saw that photograph, that was the photograph of Subbu and Kamla. He remembered Kamla, and the whole picture of Kamla and her dance started coming before his eyes. He shouted. And he said that you have spoiled my life. And with these words, he snatches the revolver from his father's hand and shot himself. There was much chaos. Everybody was trying to stop him, but by that time he shot himself. The people were trying to pick him up. In the meantime, Anarkali comes to Umarao and gives her a locket and says that Champa has sent it for you. Champa has blessed you for the children. Umarao says that I don't need children. I need to establish your identity. With this, the drama ends. So what happens in the end of the drama? Could Kamla get justice? Yes. She got justice, but after sacrificing her own life. Subramaniam did not forget her. He could not live without her. He ended his life. This was the reward for a Hinja. And was Mr. Sharma punished? Yes, he was also punished. He lost his son. So this is the message of Mahesh Dattani. That this silent section has its own voice. The need is to hear it. On April 15, 2015, in a landmark judgment, India's Supreme Court recognized transgender people as a third gender. Delivering the verdict, Justice K.S. Panikkar Radhakrishnan asserted that recognition of transgender as a third gender is not a social or medical issue, but a human right issue. However, we know that a law does not mean the rights of transgender people will be respected. The law cannot guarantee the mentality of the public will be changed overnight. Therefore, even after 7 years of this verdict, these Hinjras are still fighting. They are still struggling for their lives. And no state government or the central government has taken pains to implement it. Even the court directions given in the judgment. The Hinjras write about their own experiences of their constant harassment. The looks of disapproval, the fear of being killed, the fear of not coming back home alive, the fear of going to school, the fear of everything and anything. And due to this constant harassment and negligence, they created a cocoon around them. And this is how they are deprived, neglected, segregated, and went into inferiority and poverty. Their birth is as a curse on the society, and their death is treated as redemption. They are deprived of their family bliss. They cannot bear children. And this is the irony, that they are invited, they come on these two occasions, on wedding and on the childbirth, though they themselves are deprived of both of these pleasures. Dattani brings a fresh perspective on the lives of Hinjras in the play and ushers us in new era. He asserts that despite all negatives associated to their lives, they are still human beings. They are caring, they are loving, and they are also made of flesh and blood. They also have soul and heart. They only need dignity, respect. And when they are denied from these things, they try to break those walls. And when they break the walls, their voices are muted forever by the elite class. Now this marginalization is overcoming from their struggles a bit, and has started to speak up to the world, refusing to accept the invisibility imposed on its existence. They assert that being transgender is an identity, not disorder. Thank you. Thank you. Over to Dr. Charu. Yes, Charu. Over to you. If anybody wants to ask any question, welcome. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, Kamini, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Are you able to hear me, Indudi? हेलो, आप ये स्पीकर से बोलिए ना, ये लगा करके, ये लगा के। हेलो, आवाज तो आ रही है। इंदुदी, are you able to hear me?
I'm really thankful for the lecture which you have given to our students, and your lecture has given this very new idea that rules are made, but if they are not followed and accepted by the society, they are of no use. As the rules which are made by the government in favor of these units, they are not useful, because if society is not ready to accept them, just as the story 7 Steps Around the Fire indicates, and you have expressed all these things in a very, very simple and impressive manner, that our students, they must have enjoyed it and they must have been benefited by your lecture.
Thank you.
Really, I thank you. I'm really proud of you that I have been junior to you here. And it is a pleasure for me that we are in contact, and always you are there whenever I am asking any kind of favor from you. And as you know, कि छोटे लोग जो हमेशा favor मांगते ही रहते हैं, and you are always there. Literally, I am very thankful. Again, on behalf of my department, they are all very much impressed by your this scholarly lecture which you have given. And we have new additions also. We have 5 new department faculty here, and they too were here with us, and they had been impressed by you. They were saying कि मैम ने बहुत simple language में, and you know we always appreciate your voice. तो वो कहते कि मैडम की आवाज बहुत मीठी है. Thank you, Didi. Now I would like to.
I want to say one thing more. That if any of the student has any question or query, I will be.
Didi, ऐसा है कि it is a lecture only, because if they will unmute themselves, तो आप जानती हो what a chaos will be created.
Okay.
So that is why.
Many people, they have their own studies.
That is why we are not giving them an opportunity for this. But, thank you very much. Now I would like to introduce our second honorable speaker. She has been my teacher also, and you can understand that which kind of student she had produced in the field of academics. And for me, I would like to quote a line in her honor, that a good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. Such as Dr. Rakesh Arora ma'am. She is principal in SRS Mahila Degree College, Bareilly. And she has put on 40 years of service in this field. She is a very renowned name in Bareilly, in Rohilkhand University. And for 4 years, she is holding the administration of the college. So I was really surprised to see that Dr. Arora, she has been a very, very, very good teacher, and she is a very good administrator also. But all the qualities which I had in my imagination, I had in my mind as a guide, as a teacher, she all possesses them. And really, I have been fortunate enough to be her student. Today, from this place, as too, I have become an HOD of English department. But Didi, I really owe you कि बहुत कुछ जो मैं आज हूँ, उसमें आपका भी बहुत योगदान है.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I invite you for this lecture, that whatever I had enjoyed your lectures as a feast, my students, they should also enjoy your sweet voice, your beautiful personality, glamorous personality,
Oh no.
which
Oh no.
had always been a charm for us. हम देखा करते थे कि आज मैम कैसी लग रही हैं, आज कैसी साड़ी पहने हैं. And you will be surprised दी कि मैं आपको बता सकती हूँ बहुत सारी आपकी साड़ियाँ, बहुत सारी इमेज मेरे दिमाग में अभी भी है आपकी. Lecture, and I would like that my students, they will also enjoy your beautiful lecture here. Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Charu Mehrotra. I think that the beauty of this profession is that we have got loving students all around us, and wherever we go, we meet some of them. And definitely, as a mother feels proud of the development and the growth of their children, similarly do we when our students are reaching the heights of perfection or reaching the heights of success. So I'm really proud of you, and I still remember the way you were inquisitive in your classes, and you were always putting up the questions in front of me in the extra classes that we used to hold during the holidays. All those pictures are still clear in my mind. Thank you very much for the words of appreciation and this opportunity that you have given to me to deliver the lecture in front of your students. So let me begin, and I have tried to just design this lecture or to prepare this lecture according to the academic needs of the students. It's not like a research paper. I just wanted that it should be of some help to the students in their examination too. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Sorry, mute your mics. Yes, let me begin, students. I am going to tell you something about Mulk Raj Anand and the marginalized characters that we find in his novels. Particularly, I have taken two novels, Untouchable and Coolie. I would like to tell you in detail about the novelist also, as during the Viva Voce, we generally find out that the students hardly know about the poets or about the dramatists or about the prose writers or about the critics who are there in their syllabus. It is important to know about the life of the writer, the conditions in which he wrote, and the age also to which he belonged. Because you know that nowadays we have got so many technical facilities. Such development has taken place in our day-to-day life that we can't even imagine about the washrooms which were there used even by us. Means I had used that kind of washroom which was dry, no flush system was there. So until you go imaginatively into that era when such sweepers were working or when this system was prevalent in the society, you can't relate to the problem and to the plight of the untouchables or the Dalits. Is untouchable or the person is a Dalit. So first, try to have a kind of a background in your mind about Mulk Raj Anand. Mulk Raj Anand with R.K. Narayan and Raja Rao established Indian English novel in the gamut of India and world literatures. Anand's life may be divided into three periods according to the place of his residence, and activity. First, the early years in India until his departure for England, and it was from 1905 to 1925. The years in Europe, and these years were from 1925 to 1945. And the third, the later years in India, and this period was from 1945 till his death in 2004. This division corresponds to the different stages of his literary career. The first period reveals the various strands and influences that shaped his mind and later came to bear upon his writings. The second period is concerned with Anand's struggle to become a novelist and the eventual success he got. The third period reveals his achievements in the social and cultural life of India. Mulkraj Anand was born in the Hindu family of Kshatriyas on 12th December 1905 in Peshawar, which was the central city of Northwest Frontier Province, now in Pakistan. Anand's father belonged to the Thatiyar caste. People of this caste were workers of copper and silver. Lalchand, father of Anand, left his hereditary occupation and got education and appointed as head clerk in 38th Dogra Regiment. His mother was a devout Sikh woman from Sialkot. After doing his graduation from Punjab University with honors in English, he received the scholarship for research in philosophy under Professor Dovis Hicks in London. In 1926, he completed dissertation on the thought of great philosophers like John Locke, George Berkeley, David Hume, and Bertrand Russell. In 1928, he was awarded PhD degree by London University. He was then associated with T.S. Eliot's literary periodical, which was named The Criterion. Mulkraj Anand enjoys the reputation of being a pioneer novelist because of a corpus of creative fiction of sufficient bulk and quality. Besides novels, he has written a number of books on art, painting, and literature. He became an exciting name with his early novels, Untouchable, which was written in 1935, Khuli in 1936, and Two Leaves and a Bud in 1937, in which he started the new trend of realism and social protest in Indian English fiction. He wrote a trilogy in 1930 and between the period of 1930 and 1942, and the titles were The Village, second work was Across Black Waters, and the third was The Sword and the Sickle. In 1951, he published Seven Summers, which he planned to write as an autobiography in 7 parts, corresponding to 7 stages of a man's life, as described by Shakespeare in his play As You Like It. You might have read this play and you might be very much acquainted with the 7 stages of man's life as Shakespeare has described. His novel Morning Face received Sahitya Academy Award for 1971, and this was followed by Confession of a Lover. It was a work of Mulk Raj Anand. The second was Babel, and the third was Little Place of Mahatma Gandhi, and the next was 9 Moods of Bharata. Besides novel, he has written more than 70 short stories. I hope that Lost Child and Barber's Trade Union you might have read in your undergraduate classes, because when I was taking the undergraduate classes, I had taught Barber's Trade Union and Lost Child too. In 1952, Anand was awarded the International Peace Prize of the World Peace Council for promoting peace among the nations through his literary works. In 1967, he was awarded Padma Bhushan by the President of India for his distinguished service to art and literature. In 1978, he won the E.M. Forster Award of rupees 3,000. 3,000 was a very big amount in those days for his novel, Confession of a Lover. It was the name of the novel, Confession of a Lover, which was adjudged the best book of creative literature in the English language. Anand stayed in London for over 2 decades, from 1924 to 1945. It is very relevant. All these things that I am telling you are not irrelevant, because until we know about the writer, we won't be able to understand, criticize, or analyze the different faces and the different aspects which numerous literary, political, and social influences. And it is in them that the sources of a synthesis of Marxist and humanist thoughts can be seen. Yes, because until we understand in which conditions he worked, in which conditions he lived, in which conditions he had spent his days, we won't be able to understand the influences which came on his writings, the influence of humanism, the influence of realism, the influence of Marxism can only be understood when we try to know how and where he spent his life. Another event that had a profound influence on writers like Anand was the general strike of 1926 in the Great Britain. It made people conscious of the class war between haves and have-nots in modern civilization. Yes, you know that not only the caste war, class war had always been there in the world, not only in India, all over the world, the class war was there. On one hand, there were the rich, and on the other hand, there were the poor. There was always a large gap between the people who were having all the things and the people who were not having all those facilities and all those achievements or all those luxuries in their lives. The progressive writers believed that the principal function of literature was to reflect and express the aspirations and fundamental problems of the toiling masses and ultimately help in the formation of a socialist society. That truth alone should matter to a writer, says Anand in his essay. Why I write that? This truth should become imaginative and that's why in Untouchable, the character of Baka is directly taken from the life of Mulk Raj Anand himself. The progressive movement then has a reaction against the esoteric and inward looking art of the 1920s. Anand has felt from the very initial stages of his awareness of the human predicament, the writer cannot shut himself in an ivory tower. He cannot stand on a high perch, but has to go into the raging storm itself to be with the people, to ally himself with their many sorrows and little joys. The purpose of the novel, according to Anand, is to change mankind and through mankind, society. Of course, you know that life is not a bed of roses. There are so many difficulties, there are so many struggles, there are so many thorns, and the joys are very little. And the purpose of the aim, or the, you can say, object of a novelist is to be associated with the troubles and with the struggles of the human beings, and to create an empathy in the minds of the people, and to make a society in which all the people are respecting one another, a socialistic society. He writes about the socio-economic problems of contemporary Indian society, like exploitation, poverty, untouchability, hunger, pitiable condition of women, suffering, and exploitation of children. And even now, in this period, we can find these problems all around us. Untouchability may not be that much prominent nowadays, but poverty is there, exploitation is there. Women are still tortured and raped and insulted and intimidated, and children are also suffering a lot. Munnu and Baka are helpless laborers whose work has been permanently devalued and misappropriated. My novel's remarks, Anand, were intended to be different from those of others. I wish to recreate the folks whom I knew intimately from the lower depths, the lumpens, and the suppressed, oppressed, those who have seldom appeared in our literature, except in Sarat Chatterjee, Premchand, Vibhuti, Tarashamar, and Manek Banerjee. So he was interested to take the characters direct from the life itself. Baka, as I told you earlier also, is such a character, such a friend was there in his life. Anand recounts his first impression of England. He wrote, I had been struck by the peculiar dignity and self-respect with which the porters, sweepers, and other workers bore themselves here against the coolies in India, who were always kicked about and intimidated. I admire the way in which those who did unpleasant work seemed to recognize the dignity of labor. Yes, there was a very vast difference. Earlier, the way in which the servants were treated, the sweepers were treated, or the coolies were, you can say, talked to. They were dominated and kicked about and insulted very easily. Nowadays, the things are changing, and we say thank you even to the waiters and thank you even to our maids and servants. But earlier, in those times, this was not the case. I remember very clearly that the sweepers who used to come in our house, we used to call them by the name of sweepers only. Jamadar aaya hai. We used to talk like this. And even the maids nowadays, we take the names of the maids, and the maids are calling us bhabhi ji or behan ji, like that. Earlier, this was not the case. They used to call our mothers as Mem Sahab. And the Mem Sahab used to call their maids as Mehri. In these times, this is unimaginable that you are calling a Mehri by the name of Mehri, or you are calling a Jamadar by the name of a Jamadar. So the things are changing, But if we want to analyze and appreciate the novels of Mulk Raj Anand, we will have to go into that era. We have to go into that period. There is the issue of casteism in Indian society, but the essential question is, will industrial progress liberate bakas of society from karmic, you can say, result of cleansing human excreta and give them respect and place in the society without any reference to their birth of heredity? This question will always remain there before us. You know that earlier, to clean the excreta was definitely a very filthy job. The sweepers used to come with a brush and with a basket, and the washrooms were not like the posh washrooms of the modern times. There were the dry systems, and the sweepers were really looking so dirty that the people were not trying to come in touch with them. The novel Untouchable covers the span from 1930 to 1940, when poverty, slavery, and the inhuman exploitation of the masses were at the peak. We were not yet free. We were under the British rule, and the things were very much in bad shape. The novel describes a single day in the life of a protagonist, Baka, a scavenger boy. Baka starts his day welcomed by the abuses of his father and is forced to clean the excreta with a brush and a basket. His sister Soini goes to fetch water from caste well, where Pandit Kalinath fills pitcher with water and summons her with an ill intention to clean the temple courtyard, where he tries to molest her. So the modern students will not be able to relate to it, that what is this well and why this well is connected to a particular caste. But in villages it was a common feature. Even in the cities it was a common feature when the tap water was not easily available. So the sweepers could not touch the well or could not take the water from the wells which were connected to the high caste people. And if the girls were going to fetch water, they were molested easily by the higher caste people. So this system was quite rampant. While wandering through the railway station, he hears the news of Mahatma Gandhi's arrival in the town. He rushes to Golbagh to hear Gandhi's speech. Gandhiji expresses his wish to be reborn as an untouchable. He calls them Harijan. Harijan name was given. Otherwise, they were called Achut, Dalit, like this. But Harijan name was given to the lower caste people, to the Dalits, by Mahatma Gandhi. And he said this thing, that if a next life is given to me, I would like to be born as Harijan. And he said this thing, that actually these Harijans are the cleaners of Hindu religion. Of course, because they maintain cleanliness. Nowadays we are learning to respect them, and we have started to respect them because they make our society and our surroundings clean. But this was not the case in those times. Baka's character is modeled after one of the writer's childhood friend who was humiliated by his own mother, but whom Anand adored as a hero. The novel ends with three solutions to the problem. First solution is Jesus Christ, the second is Mahatma Gandhi, and the third is flush system. For the modern time, students' flush system may be quite a very common thing, and without it they cannot even imagine of the washrooms and the bathrooms. But earlier, as a person, I am telling you, I had seen those times when the dry latrines were there in the houses. And definitely it was very filthy, very filthy. Mulk Raj Anand did in Indian fiction what Dickens did in English fiction, means we can relate, we can compare, or we can find similarities between the writings of Mulk Raj Anand and the writings of Dickens. So Dickens and Mulk Raj Anand can be studied in that context. His fiction is a vehicle of his philosophy of humanism. He emphasizes the fact that the nobility and dignity are not the monopoly of the rich. Means even the lower class people can be noble, even the lower class people can be dignified, and they have got the right to behave in a dignified manner or to lead a dignified life. Mute, inglorious Miltons and Cromwells are not uncommon in the ranks of the poor. This is a quote by Professor P.P. Mehta. Of course, if the opportunities are given, Miltons can also be born in the lower class, and Cromwells can also be born in the lower class people. And we are seeing all around us that after the independence, the things have changed a lot in the last 72 years, and we are finding good talents, and we are finding brilliant children coming from the downtrodden section of the society. Baka is an exploited person and a rebel. He is a scapegoat of the rigid caste system. Injustice inflicted upon him makes him rebellious. Excessive abuse and insult make him think about retaliation. At such movements, he feels like a tiger at a bay. Of course, it is also common. If you are abused all the time, you are humiliated all the time, you will feel like retaliating. You will feel like a rebel, and you will like to abuse back at the people who are insulting you continuously. Munnu in the Kuli is also exploited to the core. Though he's the protagonist, he's a flat, passive character. He remains diffident and ineffective till the end. He is Kshatriya by caste, but a peasant boy who travels from his mountainous village through North India and eventually finds himself in Bombay. He is an orphan and so is forced to take whatever work he can in order to survive. He works as a servant in a mine, in a factory, and as a coolie. In each of these situations, he is subjected to harassment, beatings, and financial exploitation at the hands of his employers, moneylenders, and his so called betters. Coolie thus is a generic term for all these menials, whether they work as domestic servants or carry load or work in factories or even pull rickshaw. All can be termed as coolies. Whosoever is lifting up your load, whether in a factory or in a mine or in your house, or he is pulling your rickshaw, he can be termed as a coolie. Munnu does all the jobs of a coolie and is therefore a representative of all coolies. He comes to realize the truth of the statement: the bigger a city is, the more cruel it is to the sons of Adam. The sons of Adam, human beings. You have to pay even for the breath you breathe. You have to pay even for the breath you breathe. You know that in the recent times, you might have heard before COVID that the level of oxygen had gone so low in the metropolitan cities that in a mall in Delhi, there was a chamber made where the people could go and take oxygen by paying some amount of money. So even for the air that we are breathing, we have to pay money. For water, we have to pay money. So the bigger a city is, the more cruel it is to the children of Adam, to the human beings. Dear Munnu has to live life on the pavements and slums, and then in a very small, dingy room, which is nothing short of a living hell. The wages they get are quite inadequate. The four men ruthlessly exploits them by taking a mission. And when people start running away helter-skelter to escape the angry writers, Munu runs and gets knocked down by a motor car that belongs to Mrs. Mainwaring. Mrs. Mainwaring is a character in the novel who is an Anglo-Indian lady. She takes him in a car to Shimla. Being a woman of no morals, she makes Munu her rickshaw puller, a domestic servant, and he works so hard as a servant as well as a rickshaw puller in the hilly tracks of Shimla that he gets weaker and weaker and dies of consumption at the age of 16. The tragedy of Munu is an indictment of the evils of capitalism. It certainly arouses the conscience of humanity against the ruthless exploitation of the weaker sections of the society. Munu becomes a universal, larger than life figure, symbolizing the suffering and misery of the downtrodden and exploited masses of India. The social forces which are at the work in bringing the tragedy of Munu are beyond his control. He drifts aimlessly and has no choice. The social structure victimizes him, means he becomes a victim of the social structure. Thus, we see that Anand's fiction is steeped in humanism. His Untouchable and Kuli offer a very touching and moving account of the plight means condition, and wretchedness of the life of the Dalits. Untouchable deals with realistic depiction of the life of the untouchables. It exposes hypocrisy and carelessness, hard-heartedness of caste Hindus, and his Kuli is based on class struggle, social injustice, and psychological conflict of the rich and the poor. It focuses on the pathetic condition of the poor Munnu and the heartlessness of the rich. It deals with denial to happiness to a simple, landless orphan, Munnu, exploitation of the underprivileged, the impact of capitalism, and social and sexual degradation of human mind. Both Baka and Munnu wander for their identity. They fight and struggle for freedom. They hope that things might change. Thus, both the novels, Untouchable and Kuli, arouse compassion in the hearts of readers for the underprivileged and a sense of anger against their oppressors and exploiters in the names of caste, class, color, and race. And here he succeeds. Mulk Raj Anand simply succeeds. So, in the light of all these things, you must read these novels. Thank you for listening. Hmm. Over to Dr. Charu Mehrotra.
Thank you very much, Dee. I think that all the students of by this lecture, and as the topic was from your course, you have gone through this novel the untouchable, to the things which Dr. Arora, she has discussed in her lecture. You are familiar with all those episodes. And you must be finding it very interesting. And it is true. The focus which she has given on the lecture is that these scavengers, these Dalits, known as Harijans also, they had struggled a lot for their identity. They were suffering from identity crisis. And I think I'll not take that privilege to discuss the points which Dr. Arora, her lecture, but I would like to say that Didi, you have really given such a meaningful lecture in an impressive and simple language that I was in the class at that time where our students, they were sitting. That is why I was off the screen and I was seeing that there was a pin drop silence and everybody was hearing it with great concentration. And really I am proud of my students that both the lectures, they had attended it very attentively, as they do not behave in a routine manner. But today they were really taking interest in the lecture and our attendance was very good here. So I thanks to all my students also and my speakers, Dr. Indu Goyal, and Dr. Indu कह रही थी कि मैं भी राकेश मैडम का जरूर लेक्चर सुनूंगी, and continuously she was on the screen.
Thank you so much.
To you. हाँ, when I told her कि इंदु दी राकेश मैम भी को भी मैंने इन्वॉल्व किया है, रिक्वेस्ट की है, तो बोली कि नहीं मैं उनका जरूर सुनूंगी.
Thank you so much. I was also present while listening to the lecture of Dr. Indu Goyal. I also listened to your lecture throughout.
हमारे अभी हमारे डिपार्टमेंट में डॉक्टर कामनी, डॉक्टर गजेंद्र ने, हमारे जो जूनियर भी इन्होंने ज्वाइन किया है, उन्होंने ये सारा अरेंज किया है जूम वगैरह का.
Nice.
And she is very, he is very expert in it. तो वो सब मेंटेन करते हैं. We have recorded also it. So we'll put it in HD, hard disk में ले लेंगे. If you wish, so we can also provide you this recording.
Okay.
और हाँ, अगर आपको जरूरत होगी तो कभी भी पेन ड्राइव में आपको ये दे दी जाएगी. और हमारे फैकल्टी में हमारे यहाँ रामावत जी हैं. हमारी फैकल्टी में कामनी को तो आप जानती ही हैं.
कामनी को जानते हैं. जी हाँ जी.
और उसके बाद ज्योति अग्रवाल हैं. हमारे यहाँ आनंद सागर हैं. हमारे यहाँ सलेश गुप्ता. ये सब नए आए हैं और अभी
but they are not visible on the screen.
नहीं, they are there in a very small. they are there,
okay,
they are attending and they are looking after the students also. है ना? तो ये घूमने लगते हैं बच्चे, तो they were there in the classroom. तो some of them, and Dr. तुफैल अहमद भी हमारे संग continuously रहे. मैं उन्हें भी थैंक्स दे रही हूँ कि आपने बाहर रहकर भी हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के संग जुड़े रहे. थैंक यू डॉक्टर तुफैल. और आई थैंक्स फॉर्मल थैंक्स के लिए मैं आई इनवाइट डॉक्टर गुंजन सक्सेना, जो पीजी फोरम में हमारे संग इंचार्ज भी हैं. रादर शी इज लुकिंग आफ्टर दैट. तो मैं आई आस्क गुंजन टू गिव वोट ऑफ थैंक्स टू बोथ ऑफ द स्पीकर्स. हाँ, गुंजन.
Pour out our gratitude on behalf of the Department of English. First of all, I would like to express my
unmute तो कर ले, unmute तो कर ले. ऐसी sincere.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to pour out our gratitude on behalf of the English department. First of all, I would like to thank my sincere thanks to our respected principals, Dr. Anurag Mohan, who has boosted us morally by his blessings for successful webinar. Then I wish to extend my thanks to our experienced and dexterous speakers, Dr. Indu Goyal from Allahabad Degree College and Rakesh Arora from SRS Mila College for providing providing an excellent coverage on the marginalized literature. Really, both of you have clarified how literature renders a platform where a person finds freedom of expression and speech. It unbinds the boundary which the society places, particularly in the life of a marginalized person. This is the reason that marginalized literature is flourishing in modern era and leaving its effect upon the generation to ponder and seek the solution of such differences. Our in charge, Dr. Charu Mehrotra, is also going to release her book with articles of the same topic, marginalized literature. So far as such meaningful and needful discussion, I offer my special thanks to her. She has played a pivot role in arranging this webinar successfully. Last not the least, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our colleagues, our seniors, for their teamwork. Our seniors, Dr. Kamini Kumar, Dr. Jyoti Agrawal, as well as my colleagues, Dr. Gajendra Sharma, Dr. Ram Abad Prajapati, Anand Sagar, Mr. Shalish Kumar Gupta, and Dr. Hukumchand. All of you have supported us definitely. Your cooperation and efforts have made this webinar a grand success. I also appreciate my students who have been here and showed their enthusiasm and keen interest as well as in attending the webinar. So, thank you all. And there is an information for the students also. They have to come regularly to the college and be in contact of us because a lot of competitions are going on and participating, and they have to remain in the contact of us. So be regular and participate in coming competitions also. Okay. Thank you.
Just a minute. आइए सभी लोग सब लोग आ जाएंगे चलो करो
लेकिन उधर से सही उधर से लाइट उधर ये मैं ऐसे करना इधर इधर इधर
ठीक ठीक चलो आ जाओ स्क्रीन हमारी को आ रही है हमारी को आ रही है कर लो उसके आगे का
अरे सही नहीं और पोजीशन सही करो उसकी
सही कह रहे हैं वो भी ठीक है नीचे चार लोग बैठ रहे हैं लेकिन बैठने में बिल्कुल नहीं है
चलो ठीक है
इसको पहले सही करें।
Thank you very much. I was just, I was just trying to show my faculty. लेकिन वो हो नहीं पाया। That's okay. Thank you very much, Dee. Again, Rakesh ma'am and Indu Dee. Thank you very much. There is an information by your ma'am, Dr. Gunjan. Thank you very much.